How are you? Well, thank you. How are you? Very well. How are you? I ask this question because we say that question a lot. We say it as we're in the grocery store. We say it as we're walking down the street and we encounter one of our neighbors. We see it when our family members walk into our homes. We say it a lot. And we often get the same answers. I'm doing well. I'm doing fine. Life's good. That's right. That's what we say. We say things because that's what we have been trained to say. We don't go into a long history of everything that's happened to us since the last time we saw that person. Because if we did, they would never ask us that question again. We learn that at some point in our lives that the answer should be short, a couple of words, and then we might say, oh, well, how are you? I know that we don't learn it by the time we're 4 years old. Because I have a 4-year-old. And when you ask her that question, she says, I'm bored. Now, this is not possible that she could potentially be bored. She has got lots of activities all day long. She is running around in sprinklers now. She has got, goes to the swimming pool. She has, I don't know how many stuffed animals. I'm having a hard time counting that high on some days. How many stuffed animals she has. There's all of these blocks and toys to play with in there. We have a TV in our house. There's music to be played. In the car, we have stories being read. Frog and Toad stories. We have anything that she wants. She gets these things. She's an only child. She has all of these things, and yet she says, I'm bored. Now, I know that she didn't learn that from Jennifer or from me. We don't ever use that word. We never say that. We say the opposite of that. We say, when we are encountering people and people say, how are you doing? We say, oh, we're busy. I'm sure some of you have also said that from time to time. You say, I'm busy, because that's just like I'm fine, or hey, I'm doing well, or oh, things are good. Even in some of these kind of shaking of the head. When we say, I'm busy, people say, oh, things must be normal for them. I'm going to continue moving on. They're busy like they should be. They're busy like they should be. If you say, oh, I'm terrible, I've had a hard day, people never say that. I go into the hospital and see people who have just had surgery and they're recovering from surgery, and you say, how are you doing? Oh, I'm doing great. We are trained to say these things that get us past those moments rather than going deep into our story and telling what we really are feeling, what's happening in our lives. And we say, as I look back in my life, I say this a lot, well, I'm busy, lots of things going on. And we say that and we move on. We think busy is new. We think we are the busiest people ever. We are connected with the world around us. We have phones and tablets and computers, and we have phone messages coming in, and the TV is running all the time. We know what's happening everywhere. We are busy people, but busy is not new. In the story from the gospel today, the disciples came and were telling Jesus all the things they were busy doing. And Jesus said, let's go away and rest. And that's a really important thing that Jesus said to his disciples, because he's also saying it to us. When our lives get so busy, we have to take a pause. We have to plug into something and get recharged. we have to go away to someplace else. We need to retreat. We need to pray. We need to gather with other people who can help us connect with something much deeper and more important, the purpose in our lives. That is what we're supposed to be doing. And Jesus said to his disciples, let's go do this. Let's get in this boat and we'll go across to a deserted place and we will have some time alone. And they got in that boat and they took off. The crowds of people, the crowds were what was making them busy. They heard what they were doing, and they rushed around the outside of the Sea of Galilee and beat them to their location so that they were all there. So when they got out of the boat, there they were, asking for more. Now, if you look in your bulletin at the gospel passage that we just read, and you look at the citation, it's from Mark chapter 6, and it says, oh, there's a few verses, and then there's a whole 19 verses that are missing, and then it continues with another set of verses. So what happens in those middle verses that we don't read in today's gospel lesson? Does anybody know? I do. Jesus went away with his disciples, said, you need to go and rest. You get to the other side, there's this gigantic crowd of people there that are wanting them to do something for them. And Jesus fed them. There were 5,000 of them there. You might have heard of that story. We will read it at a different point. And then he said, oh, let's get it back. Disciples, get back in the boat and you go away. You need some rest. Go that way. And then Jesus joined them by walking on water. You've probably heard of that story too. And then they got to Gennesaret and the other shore, and they got out, and who's there? There's more crowds there, asking for something from them, asking for Jesus to heal them. They wanted to touch his cloak. And Jesus met the needs of the crowd that were gathered there. Thankfully, we are not Jesus. Jesus continued to give. When people came up to him, he gave. But Jesus knew his disciples, and we're his disciples today. Jesus knew them deep in their heart, and he knew that when they were busy, they were losing something of themselves. They were losing who they were. And he told them to rest. Rest so that you can come back and continue to serve in my name. There's a balance that we have to deal with throughout our lives. All of us, we never solve it. The balance between doing the works that we need to do to fulfill God's call to us and re-energizing ourselves, replugging us, and finding our purpose and meaning, taking care of our own spirit. We need to balance these things, and Jesus knew that his disciples needed to balance these things in their lives. They needed to realize that they were busy, and therefore they needed to pause and find a place to pray. Now, we do this every Sunday. You come to a place like this, and you gather in a wonderful community of people, and you sing songs that lift your spirit, and you say prayers that remind you of how we're interconnected. And then we go back out into the world, hopefully having found something deep and meaningful here, so that we can do the things that we're called to do, to listen to God's call that exists outside of these walls just as much as it exists right here in this place. How do we feed people? How do we care for those people on the margins of our world? What are we doing? If we only did that portion, we would lose ourselves. Jesus said, you disciples need to rest. You disciples need to be ministers and disciples doing the work of God. That's the balance that we continue to have to deal with in our lives. We can't just go without taking some time to find who we are, to pray, to worship, to love our family and care for each other, to listen to what God is calling from us, so that we can then go back into the world ready to do God's mission. So when you hear yourself, as I do, when you hear yourself saying, "Oh, I'm busy," and you just keep on walking, remember that's a call. That's a call that Jesus would hear and would tell you, take a moment to stop. Rest. Pray. Reflect. Do those things to balance out your life. And when you do, you will be ready. You'll be ready to be my disciples, to go out and make the world a better place. Amen.